So, trying to find out who I am. Trying to find out who I am. This was the most important question in my life. But of course not at the age of 3. Here you can see me as a child, and as you can see, my eyes were shining. I was super excited about reality, super happy just by being, not by doing, just by being. But as we all grew up, as we all getting older, this question of who I am is getting much more important. And statistically, statistically, most of us will have much trouble with this question at least once in a lifetime. So this was for me at the age of 18. I was very depressed, I was very down, and others came to me and said, Sebastian, just believe in yourself. But how can I believe in myself if I even don't know who I am? And what I found out at this time is that this question, who am I, is from a psychological point of view sometimes misleading. Because when you're asking yourself, who am I, there's maybe an assumption lies behind of the self or the I as a static thing. As a static thing. And when you're thinking about yourself in terms of fixation, there's not much space for growing, not much space for self-development. So, by the way, when you're thinking about if I was working at NASA at this time, the answer is no, this is just a t-shirt. But there is an interesting connection between exploring the outer space and exploring the inner space. So, in order to reach out to another planet, you have to understand some basic rules of nature very deeply, otherwise there is no chance to build a space rocket. And it is the same thing with the inner space, with self-development. There are some psychological principles, there are some psychological rules you have to know in order to really go further and really to go beyond your imagination. And I want to talk today about two of them. The first is self-experience, and the second is self-reflection. So what I do mean with this? Self-experience, I mean experiencing yourself differently or on a deeper level. So when you are like the most of us, those experience where you experience yourself deeper or very differently are not that often. But in this moment where you widen your horizon, where you experience yourself differently, there lies the most potential, the highest potential for self-development. But in order to get there, you do have to have another thing, and this is self-reflection. You have to reflect on those self-experiences in a very specific way in order to go deeper. So here are two examples. The first one, self-development through Naikan. Naikan is a practice from Japan, and it is the Japanese word for introspection. And Naikan is all about reflecting the relationship to the most important persons of your life. And this reflection is happening in one of those cabins, completely isolated from others, no handy, nothing else, but just reflecting 7 days, 16 hours a day. So when you're sitting in there, you do have a very strict method to follow. And this method are 3 questions. First question, what have I received from person X? Second question, what have I given to person X? Third question, what troubles have I caused to person X? When you are asking these questions very strictly, and you are diving into, for example, the relationship with your mom, the interesting thing about it is that you're getting so much deeper into your memories. And by getting so much deeper into your memories, your relationship will change, because relationship, by definition, is always influenced through our own memories. So in Naikan practice, you will sit there in the cabin and you will ask yourself, what I have received from my mom at the age from 5 to 10. What I have given to my mom at the age from 5 to 10. What troubles have I caused to my mom at the age from 5 to 10? And the Naikan guide always reminds you on those questions. So it was for me very special when I did my first Nikon experience many, many years ago, because on the first 2 of the 7 days, I was proving the relationship with my mom and my dad. First day my mom, second day my dad. And to be honest, I was a little bit frustrated because I found out that I'm thinking about so much more what I have received than what I have given. And after the first 2 days, the Nikon guide was coming to me and he said, he was sitting down, looking straight into my eyes, said, "Sebastian, now you're ready. Please begin the Nikon practice. Prove yourself the relationship with your mom from the age from 5 to 10. So it was going the way, another round. In the second round, the third day, about proving the relationship with my mom was getting almost or even deeper than the first one, proving myself. So what I want to tell with this is that self-experiencing is endless. You have so much more potential for self-experience than you can imagine. And the clue about is to really dive deep into those kind of experiences through those really focused reflection methods. So that was the first one, Nikon. Second one, self-development through reflecting about mortality. So we know from science that when people are confronted with death, they have a better chance to change important things in their life. That is proven. And it's a very simple argumentation. Why is that so? Because when you're confronted with death, you're confronted with some kind of limitation. And when you're confronted with this limitation, it's much more easier to differentiate between things which are important and things which are not important. So when you have this differentiation in your mind, it is easier to behave in another way, to change yourself, to develop yourself. You can find this practice in almost every religion, for example, as you can see here in Buddhism, but there are also ways for do it by yourself in a very subtle or easy way, and I will do it now with you. So, first self-reflecting question is, if you had 1 more year to live, what would you do? If you had 1 more year to live, what would you do? Just ask yourself this a few seconds. So keep in mind what you have, what rised up in your mind. And let's go to the second question, the second exercise. So now, imagine yourself 10 years ahead. Because of illness, just an imagination, because of illness, your life expectancy at this point is only 1 month or less. Imagine this. And now ask yourself, what do you wish you had spent more time on in the last 10 years? What do you wish you had spent more time on in the last 10 years? So when you are like the most of us, the second kind of self-reflection leads us even deeper into reflecting about values, about our aims, about what to do, about things that we want to accomplish. And this is really the power of self-development. When it's possible to combine those two things, to combine self-experience and self-reflection, it is much more easy to really go further in your self-development. And that's what we can see in Nikon, in reflecting mortality, and in any other supportive self-development practice. All that practice have to respect those two principles of self-experience and self-reflection in order to work effectively. So when we look into future, I have chosen one quote which is very important to me. And the quote is, "The information age is over, welcome to the experience age." In other words, the accessibility of information is given. what is rising up is the accessibility of experiencing. So what I want to say with that is that in regard of self-development, in regard of self-reflection and self-experiencing, new technologies, new immersive technologies do have a much greater impact on those kind of self-development than any other medium before. So on the one hand, immersive technologies always have the risk that you get lost in some virtual worlds. But on the other hand, they do have the power to support you in those two basic principles, to support you to get deeper inside yourself, to support you to really get those kind of self-experience and self-reflection you need in order to go further. And when this is the case, then I think the question, who am I, is not that much challenging anymore. Because there is another question that could be much more helpful. The question is, who can I become? Who can I become? And I think this has to do because you not only have the potential for change, in my point of view, you are at your deepest self-potentiality for changing. You know, the potentiality is your true nature. So believe in your ability of self-development. Believe in your ability of self-reflection. Believe in your ability for self-experience. Believe in a greater vision of yourself. Thank you.